What is up, everyone? Welcome to the Student Built Startups podcast. I'm your host, Cameron Stone, entrepreneur and marketing analytics student at UMD. I interview student entrepreneurs to share their stories and business strategies. On today's episode, I interview a guest who will speak about modern marketing and management. She is a fellow entrepreneur, business owner, and a two-time international best-selling author. If you want to find out more about our guest today, you can find her on LinkedIn, and the link to that will be in the show notes, so make sure to go check that out. Now, I am absolutely thrilled to introduce you all to the owner of Simply Branded and Expy Health, Alexis Schomer. Hey, Alexis, I am super happy to have you here on the Student Built Startups podcast today. I'm real excited to talk with you. I'll have you start off by saying hello to everyone listening and sharing one crazy but true fact about yourself.
Awesome. So excited to be here. Thanks for having me on the show. I'm Alexis Schomer, and one crazy but true fact. Well, I have a double certification / license in scuba diving and a motorcycle license. So that's kind of unique to me.
Wow, that is kind of crazy. Like a scuba diving certification and motorcycle license. That's impressive. Are you like kind of a bit of a daredevil, or are you just like those two things?
I would say I'm a little bit of a daredevil. I like adventurous stuff and getting outdoors and, getting either underwater or on hikes or jumping off cliffs or whatever.
Yeah, getting a little adrenaline is always fun.
Exactly.
So if you could share with the audience a little bit about your education and entrepreneurial story and some details about your two businesses, Simply Branded and Expy Health. That'd be great.
So I started my business, my first tech startup, while I was still in college. I was first introduced to the entrepreneurial world through Entrepreneurship 101, which is a class you can take at my university. And before I took that class, I had a complete business mindset, but I didn't really understand what it meant to be an entrepreneur. And what really changed my mindset was learning about how to shift my frame of thinking from seeing problems to seeing solutions. So this shift happened almost overnight. It took about a week's time in this class. And after I kind of pivoted my mentality, I saw all these opportunities to solve problems and actually create viable businesses from them. So I kept exploring more of the entrepreneurship world. I joined the entrepreneurship club. I competed in a competition called Startup Weekend, and I actually won $10,000 for my idea going in.
Wow.
So yeah, that kind of sparked my initial company. And since then, I've been running both businesses ever since. So quick overview about each one. Expy Health is a healthcare tech startup, and we help patients prepare for and recover from orthopedic surgery using a wearable device and a mobile application. Think like Fitbit for physical therapy, and doctors can remotely monitor using the portal and the web app. So been doing that for about a year and a half. That's the second healthcare tech startup that I've co-founded. And then also running Simply Branded, which is a digital marketing agency. Think website development, branding, social media, all that kind of stuff.
Awesome. Those both sound like very interesting companies. And the orthopedic Expy Health sounds like a very like kind of a fun area to be in, working in kind of the health industry and kind of having an impact on how people recover. I think that's probably a pretty fulfilling area to be working in.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely fun and interesting from the innovation side, but we're met with a lot of challenges facing the healthcare dinosaur industry, and a lot of the people in that industry are used to doing, things with pen and paper. So some people are more like tech averse and opposed to adopting new technologies, while you get some of the younger doctors who are super into it and are looking for ways to innovate and create more efficient ways to deliver care.
Yeah, you made a good point there. I could totally see how the industry might be a little bit old school.
Yeah.
But like it'll eventually transition like everything. It just might take a little bit more pushing, I guess. And I also liked how you said you switched your mindset from seeing problems to seeing opportunities. I think that's like a foundational piece for every entrepreneur, is to kind of have that mindset shift like that.
Yeah, it really was the pivotal moment for me, because before that, I never thought about I never thought about problems as opportunities to solve them. I just thought about problems as problems. But once you change that mindset, you really start to think about creative ways to solve everything in your life. And then once you're an entrepreneur, you can never go back. Like you can never rewind the innovation mindset, you know?
Yeah. So kind of leading into that, did you have like a very specific moment or thing that happened that really, I know you said that you took that course and in that 1 week you kind of had that mindset shift, but did you have like one thing that really kind of sparked like your entrepreneurial passion?
So that shift would have been the start of the path. I mean, I wouldn't say there was one
Hmm.
specific thing, but a bunch of things that, kept happening and led me along this journey. But if I could pinpoint two pivotal things for me, that mindset shift, and then actually the opportunity to start my tech company as a student by
Hmm.
winning this competition. And so once I completed that competition, won 10,000 for the idea along with my co-founders, we found this new opportunity for student entrepreneurs to participate in business competitions and win money. And it's opportunities that are generally only available for students. There are some outside competitions that are available to everyone, but that's one of honestly the biggest advices I can give to a student entrepreneur is to take advantage of these resources and all of the money and funding available for student entrepreneurs.
Yeah, and I'll definitely say that like the universities and educational systems are becoming more like entrepreneurial friendly and starting to
Mm-hmm.
give more opportunities to people who are interested in entrepreneurship, which is nice to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And even beyond the universities, there's companies that want to inspire young entrepreneurs. So they will fund competitions and donate prizes, whether it's cash or in kind prizes and things like that as well.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, for sure. If you could go back in time and kind of give your old self one piece of advice that you think might help you succeed more in the future, what would that be?
As a young entrepreneur, I think it would be to take every advice from other people with a grain of salt. Because as a new entrepreneur, and I've noticed this more lately by coaching other entrepreneurs that are kind of starting off, when you get advice from someone, it sounds like great advice and you want to fully accept it and kind of apply it. But you have to remember that you are the only person that's in the best place to make decisions for your business. So when you get 100 pieces of advice from 100 different people, although they might all be correct, you have to take each one and, take what you like and manipulate it and take it with a grain of salt because it can be so overwhelming to try to apply everyone's advice. So, take a step back, listen to what they're saying, take what you like, and don't don't pivot your business because one person said something. That's often what happens. You're talking to a mentor or a coach and they're like, you have to do it this way, and then you pivot everything, and then someone else like, no, you have to do it this way, and everyone could be right, but they're only speaking from their experiences. So
Hmm.
the piece of advice is take it with a grain of salt and remember that you are in the best position to make decisions.
Yeah, I really like what you said there, and I can't agree with you more because like everybody brings their own unique experiences and their own their own mind, and
Yeah,
nobody knows like their vision like you don't know your own vision, and using other people's advice to kind of help you formulate your own kind of take on everything that you've consumed is the best way to go about making decisions rather than just listening to one person or Googling something and doing the first thing that you see. You kind of have to take an inventory and compile your own answers.
exactly.
Yeah. So, what would you say was your like aha moment for either one of your businesses when you kind of realized you had a really cool idea?
So for the healthcare startup, there was so much pivoting involved that I don't even know if there was one moment, but honestly, when we won the competition, the judges weren't just business people. They were actually doctors, ER directors, and physical therapists. So the validation from from those kind of people to our idea was kind of an aha moment where we're like,
Hmm.
okay, this is a no-brainer. We need to do this. There's a gap in the market. All of these, super experienced healthcare professionals validated our idea. So there were tons of pivots along the way and little mini aha moments along the whole way. But winning that was like, all right, let's do it. And then for the branding and marketing company, once again, I wouldn't say there was one aha. It was more like a few aha
Oh, I think I lost
when people in the community would approach me and ask for, oh, did we cut
I
out for a
lost you
sec?
for like 2 or 3 seconds. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll turn my video off just in case that might be slowing the internet down. But
Okay. So I'll just pick up on the second kind of like aha moments. I was
okay.
just saying that for my marketing agency, there were maybe a few aha moments that led up to it, but I was just getting approached by people in the community asking for help with marketing, asking who did our marketing for the tech startup. And after I had enough of those moments, I'm like, all right, I have to be doing this and helping other people because I have a talent and I can really give back to other startups and other community members by helping and coaching them with marketing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was interesting how you said your first business, you didn't really have like a specific aha moment, but when you won that competition, it helped you realize that you actually had like a gap in the market and an opportunity there. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that that's a really interesting kind of insight because when you're thinking about like an idea, you don't necessarily have to have the whole idea figured out. You just need to have like enough of it figured out to get the validation that you need to actually go in there and to be bound and determined to like get the finished product.
Yeah, exactly. And I think with the tricky part about aha moments in entrepreneurship is that you're always pivoting. So you might have an aha moment for one idea, but if that's the same idea today as it is like 1 or 2 years down the line, you're probably not succeeding as an entrepreneur because you have to be constantly pivoting from the feedback you're getting from customers, from, testimonials, things like that. So um, I like the question, but I'm also concerned that if someone has one answer, then they're probably not doing it the right way either.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I think that a lot of entrepreneurs have like aha moments every day, and they
Right.
like I think that all of us have like an aha moment multiple times a day, and we like just have ideas and too many of them, and taking action on all of them would be almost impossible, I feel like.
Yeah.
Um, but I guess moving on here, what would you say is one attribute about like how you've approached life that has kind of led to your success in entrepreneurship?
I would say personally it's been the fact that I've been very resourceful,
Hmm.
and starting a business with no money, people often think is impossible, but when you think outside the box and leverage the resources that are available to you, you can get a lot done. So being a student entrepreneur actually has its advantages because you have a ton of resources that are available to you that non-students don't have access to. For example, we kind of discussed like the student entrepreneur funding through competitions, but beyond that, different universities have tons of different free resources you can utilize, such as different databases in the library that you'd have to pay hundreds or thousands of dollars for, or free printing, or office hours with your teachers that would be equivalent to paying, let's say, $250 an hour for a consultant. So I definitely utilized all those things while I was still a student to get me in a position, in a place where I was making enough money to fund the business when I graduated.
Yeah, I think you made a great point about just utilizing all of your resources while you're in school,
Mm-hmm.
because like a lot of people might be kind of nervous about asking their professor about something non-school related, but from my experience, most professors are more than happy to help you like on a personal level or on your own business level because they want to be invested in you and not just necessarily your like education in quotes. And I
Right,
think,
exactly.
yeah, they kind
Yeah,
of
and
go
sorry, go
ahead.
ahead. um, I was just going to say that if you go to the right professors, essentially it is education, because if you're asking a finance question to your finance professor, they are still educating you. It's just outside of the textbook, which is more useful than the textbook information. And oftentimes they're going to be so excited to help with something like this because they have the office hours for a reason. So if your teacher has 2 hours of office hours a day, or let's say twice a week, and no one's going, they're going to love that you came and are engaging them and have something exciting to share.
Yeah, yeah, I can totally see that. I know like a lot of my professors, they complain about nobody going to office hours, and anytime
Exactly.
anytime anybody stops by, they like make a huge deal out of it. So
Yeah, well, a tip for entrepreneurs, go to the
yeah.
office hours and ask away.
Hmm. So how do you go about handling fear in your life, and how do you like overcome some of those fears that you have?
I would say that my business partner and I both have like a very critical thinking type mindset.
Hmm.
So we break down everything like to a T. So if there's ever a quote unquote fear, we break down like what is the fear? Where is it coming from? Is this rational? Is it irrational? And so oftentimes I wouldn't even call them fears anymore. That we just kind of have like thought barriers, or like Tony Robbins would say, limiting beliefs that you can often break down and get past. So I can't even remember the last time that I was like genuinely scared of something. I just, think of some worst case scenarios and try to prevent them, or think about plan Bs in case things don't go the right way. So it's just about being prepared for all situations. And whenever you are scared of something, you have to really kind of break it down and figure out what's the cause of that fear, because it's probably you limiting yourself and not an actual fear.
Yeah, I mean, you really gave a great kind of definition of like how fear is actually not like, it shouldn't be that big of a thing, and it's really more or less a mindset. And I feel like once you develop the right mindset about fear, you can really use fear to your advantage almost, and identify areas that you can, one, grow as a person, or understand like why you are afraid of something, and then work on that reason of why you're afraid of it, and not just focusing so much on the fear itself.
Right.
So I think it's a very big process, and it's an important thing to do to build the right mindset around fear.
Yeah. And I mean, when I think of fear, I think of like if being in a jungle and facing a lion and then you're like fearing for your life.
Yeah.
But I guess on a more day-to-day like business mindset, you could probably fear things like fear of rejection from cold calling, or, smaller things like that. But that's just part of the process. And you're going to have those little mini fears along the way that you will have to overcome to get to the next stage of your business.
Yeah. And every time you overcome one of those fears, you get one step less fearful than you were, essentially. So
exactly.
So we can jump into talking about some marketing strategies and sharing some great value with everyone listening. So what would you say are 3 marketing tactics that all businesses should get involved with, and that will help them kind of stay ahead of the game?
Okay, so let's take this one by one.
Okay, yeah.
All right, so the first marketing tip for any business is going to be generating quality content that your customers need or want. So when I say content, I mean content in any form. It could be a blog, it could be a video, it could be your social media content, but you want to be producing things that either answer questions, give value, or entertain, depending on your type of business. But a lot of research is done on the internet based on questions that people have, or looking for solutions to something. And if you are the business providing that, you're not only providing value, but you're building trust with your audience. So I'm sure you've heard the term content marketing, and that it's a multifaceted term, but essentially it means creating content that you can distribute on different platforms like social media, your website, YouTube, things like that, that will get your brand out there, help people, provide value, and then at the end of the day, draw them back to your website to hopefully generate new leads and new business. So content is king. I'm sure you've heard that. And then along with that, what comes after the content, it's nurturing those leads. So if somebody finds a good blog on your site or a good YouTube video that answers a question, you want to somehow collect their email or give them like the full tutorial if they sign up here. And then you have to be consistently nurturing. And how do you nurture someone? You send them more valuable content over time. And you want to have some good email software in place where you're sending out newsletters maybe once a month, once a week, once again, depending on your business. And then also sharing, anything exciting relating to your business, like a new launch or like a pop-up shop, a coupon, a summer sale, things like that. So you always want to be top of mind, communicating with your audience and providing value. So we have content, we have nurturing, and then from a personal level, to all entrepreneurs listening to this and people starting their business, I would say get involved in your community. And this is going to be more of like a personal thing rather than a business thing, but you are your business at the end of the day. So get involved in smaller communities in your local area so that you can become known as the expert in your industry. So obviously I am known as the digital marketing expert and also kind of like the startup girl. So a lot of people will come to me with questions if they have a business idea. And I didn't try to position myself as this person, but just from going to and sharing my knowledge on social media, people now organically reach out to me for questions in those areas. So that, even though that's not necessarily like a marketing strategy, at the end of the day, when you put yourself out there, you are marketing yourself, which in turn leads to marketing your business.
Yeah, I mean, I really like those three things that you mentioned there: the content, nurturing, and then the community. And
Mm-hmm.
you're the first person on the podcast who has mentioned like nurturing as, like, we've talked about, like, kind of maintaining relationships, but the word nurturing, I think, has a very strong meaning that's more, has a deeper meaning than just like maintaining a relationship. And
Yeah.
I think that just having like that investment in the your customers and your community is going to set you apart from people who are just trying to, quote, maintain relationships.
Exactly. And you can tell when people are being fake, you know.
Mm-hmm.
We use the terms B2B or B2C, business to business, business to consumer, but at the end of the day, every single transaction is P2P, it's person to person.
Mm-hmm.
No matter if you're dealing with a business or an individual or like consumer, you're dealing with people. So relationships are important, personal relationships are important, but business nurturing leads is also part of relationship management that goes beyond like just you as an individual and reflects the company as a whole.
Yeah, definitely. So kind of bouncing off that a little bit, do you think that like marketing or branding are more important, or do you think there's like a certain like level of distribution of those two things that is most effective?
I think that marketing is an umbrella term and branding is under it. So marketing is like the umbrella category, and under it you have branding, advertising, website development, social media, graphic design, copywriting. There's all these terms that fall under the marketing umbrella. And so branding, I would say, usually from my point of view, is the first thing that you do when you start a business. So before you go out blasting on social media, you want to get your branding down. So you want to understand who you're going after, what your messaging is going to be. Obviously, you're going to be testing it and maybe shifting it along the way. But branding is the first stage. You want to have your brand values, your logo, your color scheme, all that kind of stuff. And when I work with clients that are starting a business, that is step one. We have a branding session, create a brand book that defines the guidelines so that anyone that's going to create a social media post or send out an email can always refer back to the brand book to make sure that they're in line with the brand overall.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you made a great point there, and thanks for kind of clarifying the difference between the marketing and branding there. I think I was trying to go after like advertising and branding, but yeah, I think I made a little bit of a mistake there. So
That's
um,
okay. I
yeah,
mean, it can be, it's confusing, but
yeah, it is.
think of marketing as like the umbrella term and everything falls under it.
Yep. Okay. Cool. But yeah, I like how you said branding should be a first starting point because it's almost like your foundation because I feel like any advertising or website building that you do or anything content related should be kind of implementing your brand values that you identified.
Exactly. And you want it to reflect your brand and you want everything to be cohesive. So if someone finds your social media or lands on your website, you want the messaging, the look and feel to be the same so they know they're viewing the same business.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Um, so I know that like SEO or search engine optimization is becoming one of these like new kind of sparkly words that's going around everywhere.
Mhm.
So if you could maybe share just a little bit about kind of what search engine optimization is and maybe a couple tips regarding that and how you can get some more website traffic.
Yeah, absolutely. So the overall concept of search engine optimization is the idea of ranking first or on the first page of Google or any search engine, but Google is the largest one. So we're going to go with Google for the purpose
Mm-hmm.
of this conversation. So the goal is to rank number one on Google for not only your brand and your business name, but also for the services that you provide, which are generally called key terms. So for example, for my business, I would want to rank number one for digital marketing agency. And there's kind of two general groups of SEO. There's going to be global SEO and local SEO. So local SEO is used when you have local businesses, for example, a plumber, a doctor, people that you need to see in your community. And it's the strategy of ranking is a little bit different because imagine if you type restaurant near me, you're going to
Mm-hmm.
see a map. It's called the local 3-pack. You're going to see a lot of things that you wouldn't see if you type like best shoes online. Then you're going to get like Nike, Amazon. You're competing with all these e-commerce brands. But if you're competing on a local level, there's different things that you can do to kind of win space in Google's eyes. So you're going to have you want to have your address with your map nailed down. You want to have listings on a bunch of different directories that all have the exact same contact information, including your address, website, phone number, things like that. So there's a lot of strategies that go into it, and it depends on the type of SEO you're trying to rank for. But and we could have like a 3-hour discussion about SEO, but I'm gonna try to keep it short.
Okay.
So we have local SEO, global SEO, and then the two main components of SEO from like a search engine's point of view are authority and content. So it goes back to my number one marketing tip, which is content. Google wants to know that you're providing content that people want to read and care about. So if somebody lands on your blog or your website and stays on it for a long period of time, it means that they're reading the content and they're getting what they were looking for. So that's going to give you some bonus points with Google. Now, on the flip side, if you're using like clickbait or you draw them in from something and your content sucks and they leave, it's called a bounce, and Google actually dings you for that. So it really comes back to the quality content you're providing. And then the authority side is how popular is your website on the internet. That's how you can think of it. So to be really popular, you want a lot of other websites to talk about you. So these are called backlinks. And a backlink is just a link from a different website that points to your site. So to get those, you have to be building relationships with other websites, with other blogs. You have to be in, news articles that link you back, like all these different types of blogging and strategies and PR and all this stuff to get links. And there's a lot of black hat tactics in SEO where people can buy links or get cheap links. And Google's eventually going to ding you for that because Google's smarter than that, and it knows when you're trying to cheat the system.
Yeah, and I would imagine Google won't be very forgiving when they do find out.
Right.
So yeah, thanks for breaking that down. I really liked how you broke down SEO into like local and global, because I haven't really I've experienced that, but I haven't really like heard it brought up as two separate things. And I did have one question about that. So let's say there's a company that is both trying to do like global type SEO and local type SEO. Is there like overlap there, or do you think they have to take two like parallel approaches but in different areas?
There's definitely overlap. They're going to have to exert a lot more effort than one or the other. So usually businesses might usually there's like a clear route they want to take. If you're a local business, you want local SEO. If you're a global business, you want global. But there's just a lot of effort and cost that goes into it, because a lot of businesses need to hire an outside SEO team. And if you're like, okay, I want to rank number one locally and globally, it's going to cost you a lot of money.
Yeah, I could see
you're
that.
You have to hire people to write content for you, to work on getting backlinks for you, to do all of the on-site optimization for you. So there's a lot that goes into it. You're not paying for the spot, you're paying for the work involved to like boost you up there. And another thing to remember about SEO is that it's a long-term game. So if anybody makes any promises that they're going to get you number one on Google within 3 months, it's BS. We always say, minimum 6 months, generally 9 months to a year to see substantial results.
Yeah, I can definitely say that I don't personally know anybody that's gone from like nothing to being on the first page of Google in any small amount of time.
Right.
So what are some things that you do to promote your own brands, like some tactics that you use or methods that you use?
So I'm primarily referral based, and
Okay.
I've taken my own advice about the community aspect and really become that expert in my community that I'm now the go-to person for marketing and branding. So when I say community, I mean like your local entrepreneurship center. If you're in a specific industry, there's probably going to be meetups or groups in those industries. And to give you an example of from my point of view, for my healthcare company, we are part of this community called Scale LA, which is the hub of innovation for healthcare in Los Angeles. And brand new community started last year. So we rent office space there where we help other entrepreneurs. It's really active and involved. And And that's such a good way to get known in your local community. So find other businesses that are similar to yours, go network, get out there, go to some networking events. Don't drain yourself and don't waste time at events that aren't going to, provide some type of ROI. But that's how I promote my business is I put myself out there. I often volunteer and mentor, and I also speak at various events. So if there's a marketing event, a healthcare tech event, I'm often asked to be on a panel for like women in tech events. So it's really about putting yourself out there, and then in turn, people are going to ask, "What do you do?" And you can share your business.
Yeah, I think that's one of the key things is just putting yourself out there and not being afraid to do that, and just being comfortable with who you are and confident.
Exactly. Yeah. And then another tip is attending kind of like trade show style events that are also relevant. So a lot of the startup ones won't charge you if they're trying to get startups to come exhibit. And that's a good way to get a lot of eyes on your company for little to no money. I'm not talking about like the $10,000 trade show booths, but the smaller startup style events or participating in competitions where you can pitch your business in front of a crowd. Often those are free and might just take, a few hours out of your day, but you'll meet a ton of people that way as well.
Yeah, I would definitely imagine. Correct me if I'm wrong about this, but I would imagine that if you are going to like these events and whatnot, and you're building relationships with these people, it's much easier to build like a professional relationship with them and get business that way than it would be to build like a relationship with somebody through like online marketing or content marketing or online communities. So do you personally like see better results on like let's just say like on a percentage of like people met versus customers on like in-person events versus online events?
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think that making that personal connection is like almost unmatchable online.
Mm-hmm.
So the percentage of conversions from face-to-face interactions versus only online are a lot higher because people, when people meet you, they can trust you easier. If you're honest and you're knowledgeable and you're authentic, you can build that trust a lot easier than if you're trying to convince someone over the internet to sell them something.
Yeah, I agree with you there. So I know you have a little bit of experience managing interns, so we can talk about that a little bit. I'm actually an intern myself right now. So how can a small business benefit from having interns, and why should they choose interns over employees in some scenarios?
So I, like you, was also an intern when I was in school. And I think that there's so much opportunity to learn as an intern and vice versa. As an employer, interns are hungry to learn. So they're willing to go above and beyond to prove themselves, get the experience they need to enter the real world. So they're ready to like give it their all as opposed to an employee who might just be there to collect the paycheck. So the motivation level is higher. The willingness to kind of think outside the box is higher. And my advice to businesses is to give interns the flexibility in the room to allow them to be a little bit creative, and don't give them specific instructions for every single task. Give them maybe a goal or a few task assignments and then say, you're welcome to complete these like with your creative freedom. So I'm mainly talking about marketing interns, and every intern that I've had has had such a good experience and wanted to continue past internship because they were learning so much. So I know that like my process helps not only, helps them acquire skills that they didn't have before, but it's also such an enjoyable experience because they have creative freedom. So in terms of interns versus employees, another cool thing about interns is that if you're giving them school credit, you don't have to pay them as much as you pay an employee. It's always nice, to pay an intern, but you can also leverage the fact that you can utilize school credit as the form of payment, and be really flexible. So my advice for businesses that want to hire interns is to be flexible, give them room to be creative, definitely teach them and you have to teach them skills along the way. You can't just be having them do admin work. It's about teaching them new skills. It's about the internship. So it's really a great way to utilize talent that might not have been realized without the opportunity. And also it's also a way to give back and kind of help students get that experience and real life work that they wouldn't have had otherwise.
Yeah. You gave a great explanation there of kind of exactly what I asked. But one thing I was kind of curious about is, So with interns, when you're looking to hire something, so I am lost there. Hold on. Let me regather my thoughts. um, so when it comes to like hiring interns, what are some of the things that you look for in a potential intern?
So I actually don't look at skills at all. I just look at willingness to learn and personality, because I can teach anyone anything I want as long as they are willing to learn and willing to kind of get creative. So I just look at who they are as a person, if how the interview goes, and if they're willing to kind of think outside the box.
Yeah, I think those are two great things to think about when you're hiring pretty much like almost anyone.
Yeah.
And I've heard a lot of things similar to that. And one other thing I just think I might want to add on to that is that just like how they fit into the culture of the company is another important thing, just because like you said, you can teach skills, you can teach
Yeah.
like ways to do things, but you can't necessarily like teach their personality. Like you said, you can't teach them to like fit in with the other people that are working there, and those sorts of things.
Right. And
Um,
another thing, actually, interesting thing that I found is that people's writing skills are often not great. So that to me is a really great quality to have if you can write well, because if everything's about content and you can't write, then you're almost going to be useless, even if you're, even everyone has to write. So people, I don't know what's going on with like the school system, but it seems like people are so reliant on spell check that they make so many grammatical and spelling errors that are just kind of unacceptable in the marketing world and can really invalidate a business. If you're on a business website and reading something that has grammatical errors, you're probably going to think less of the business.
oh, definitely. Yeah. You absolutely will lose some level of trust there, because if they can't get their spelling right on their website, then I would not think that they would trust them to get their spelling right on the ads that they're running for you.
Exactly.
So let's say somebody's listening to this podcast right now and they have a small business and they're thinking about hiring their first intern. What
Mm-hmm.
advice would you give them?
So start with the local schools. Universities almost always have job posting sites, so you can put a job posting for an intern, and you want to have some structure to the internship. So you want to outline what the intern's going to do, which like field they're going to be in. So are they going to be in marketing? Are they going to be in finance? And you want to outline some of those responsibilities. But the best tool that I've found to help manage my interns is a project management tool called Trello,
Hmm.
Trello, and super user friendly. I upload the assignments for each week in the to-do list. And then as the interns are doing them, they'll move them to the in progress list. And then when they're completed, they'll move them to the complete list. And then we have a check-in call once a week where we can review any questions and then discuss new assignments.
I think that's really interesting that you use Trello for that, because in the past we've had people recommend Trello for like personal stuff, but I
Mm-hmm.
think it's a really great idea to use that to like help manage your interns and provide some structure that way. I think that's a great use of your resources.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been very easy to follow, and almost every intern that didn't have any experience with Trello had no problem picking it up.
Yeah, that's I've heard it's a great tool. So yeah, we're gonna move on to the Fast Five section now. So we'll ask 5 questions and we'll go through them pretty quick.
Okay.
So, what is the most valuable learning experience that you have had?
So, I mean, I would say once again, it goes back to that question of my advice to entrepreneurs, where you need to take everyone's advice with a grain of salt.
Okay. What is one book that you would recommend?
I would recommend the 4 Hour Workweek by Timothy Ferriss.
Ooh, I've heard that's a really, really, really good book.
Yep,
Um,
one of my favorites.
yeah. So, what's one business tool that you would recommend? I guess Trello would fit into this, but um,
Okay, definitely gonna say Google Drive. All of my businesses live on the Google Drive.
yeah, I will second that. And it's free. Yeah, obviously you can
Yeah.
pay for more, but it is free to start with.
Yep.
So what kind of things do you do to schedule your time and plan ahead when you have a pretty packed schedule?
So if I need specific time to work on a project, I will literally put it in my calendar as a time block so that I have dedicated time to work on it. And this is actually, this could be another hour-long discussion, but your time blocks do get messed up. So let's say I have a time block for a website that I need to build, and then I get a phone call that takes 30 minutes. So I just lost 30 minutes of my hour time block. So you need to reschedule that time later. So it's about time blocking so that you have dedicated periods of time to work on specific things. And if they get interrupted, you have to reschedule them.
I really like that scheduling method. I've heard quite a few different methods. That one there is probably one of my favorite that I've heard though.
Nice.
So what's the number one thing that you would say drives your motivation?
Wow, I don't even know the answer to that question. I think it might be just my desire to keep growing because that's, once you accomplish small goals, then you have to keep setting bigger ones and new ones. So it's about that, like the love for growing and continuing this cycle of setting goals, becoming more efficient, and continuing up this path that I've envisioned for myself.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that having like a growth mindset, not to be kind of cliche, but having a growth mindset is very important, because if you just focus on setting one goal and you reach your goal and you're like, I can sit back and relax now for the next 2 months, don't have to do anything, it's going to set you back a little bit instead of the other way of setting a goal. And then I like to say, celebrate your goals at 90% and then just set another one before you actually finish the last one.
Okay.
That's kind of my take for that.
Yeah. I've heard a lot of different strategies for celebrating, whereas some people and some businesses don't celebrate at all because they want to keep growing, while others think it's important to celebrate the wins. And I do like celebrating the wins. I often have to convince my business partner to celebrate with me because he has more of the opposite mindset where he's like, no, we'll celebrate when we make it big. It's like, well, you need to celebrate your wins along the way to stay motivated, because if you don't celebrate along the way, then you might lose motivation at the same time.
Yeah. I can kind of relate with your business partner because I have a hard time. I have to make myself celebrate, but I think it's important to do because you gotta just live a life too. So
yeah. And you do have small wins along the way. Like you're running this podcast. And when I'm sure when you set that up, you're like, hey, well, I need to get my first interviewer or interviewee on. Then you're like, hey, I need 10 episodes. And you're like, okay, well, I need now 1 million viewers. But if you don't celebrate the small wins along the way, you're never going to feel like you accomplished anything. And then you're going to be this giant successful podcast and still think like you're starting off.
Absolutely. Yeah. You wrapped that up pretty good there. So Alexis, you gave some great insights into marketing and branding and SEO and everything else that you mentioned involving your story as well. So last thing here, before we wrap up, I'd like you to provide one main takeaway for the audience to remember.
Okay. Wow. That's a hard one from everything that we've discussed. Okay. Well, I kind of want to give like 3 tips, I guess. Okay.
That's cool. That works.
So kind of covering maybe the 3 giant topics of this podcast. The first tip would be to be resourceful and be open to pivoting as an entrepreneur from the, student entrepreneur side. From marketing, I would say work on your content and providing value. And then from like the business side, I would say be authentic and get involved in your community.
All right. Those are, three great things to leave the audience with to remember. And last thing here is, where can we find more about you and your businesses?
So you can find me on LinkedIn, Alexis Schomer, on Facebook or on Instagram. And then to learn more about the businesses, you can go to either website. So Expy Health is just expyhealth.com. And then Simply Branded is simply-branded.com. You can find both businesses on social as well. So one internet search away and you can probably find everything you need.
All right. And I'll make sure to put the links to those in the show notes as well, so everyone listening can just go get a direct link.
Okay, awesome. Well, thanks so much for having me. This has been such a fun time, and I hope that the listeners got some good value from our conversation today.
Yeah, I'm certain that they will, and I appreciate you coming on the podcast. So thank you.
Yeah, it was my pleasure. And if anyone has any further questions on marketing, feel free to reach out. I'd love to. I love helping student entrepreneurs.
All right. Yeah, thank you so much. And that concludes today's episode. I just want to say that I'm really glad I was able to share Alexis's story with you guys. Thanks again for being on the show, Alexis. And thank you to everyone who is listening right now. I truly appreciate you and the support that you bring this show. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and leave a rating and review if you thought that this episode was enjoyable or brought you some value. It helps bring awareness to the podcast and bring some credibility so that we get some new listeners and get some exposure to other audiences. And yeah, if you want to find some more information about what we talked about today on this episode, you can head over to studentbuiltstartups.com. All the links, all the show notes, and everything that we talked about will be covered over at that website. And I highly encourage you to go check it out. So that's all that I got for you guys. Thanks again, and I will catch you on the next episode.